probably know, if you read the bulletin, that today is the winter solstice. In fact, an hour ago was the winter solstice exactly. So the word solstice literally means the sun stands still. Sol meaning sun, stis meaning stops. And it is the longest night of the year, the shortest day of the year. We have two solstices. There's a summer solstice. It's a lot of S's to say. So the summer solstice is the longest day of the year, and from that point forward, the nights get longer and longer. The winter solstice is the longest night of the year, and from that time forward, the days get longer and longer. So it's kind of interesting because in my research on how to celebrate the solstice, none of them are about celebrating the dark, this longest night. They're all about celebrating the return of the sun god. So, for example, here's a poem I found. It's called Winter Solstice Blessing. The winter solstice is a sacred time infused with quiet magic and returning light. It is a moment when the universe, in its infinite kindness, awakens our hearts to tender and brighter possibilities, rekindling the light of hope within our souls as a new cycle of light slowly begins. May the light, though small at first, guide us faithfully through the darkest days, reminding us that even the longest night must yield to morning. As we give thanks for all that has nourished us, every lesson, every kindness, every tenderness that shaped our year, we honor the path that brought us here, and in gratitude we begin again, walking onward with renewed hope, gentle anticipation, and the quiet courage to welcome the year ahead. So that's a very beautiful blessing, but the question I have is, why do we want to leapfrog over the night and the blessing that we could have from really appreciating this long night? It's interesting to me that people are afraid of the dark, because I don't think that's a natural state of being. I mean, think about it. When a baby is developing in the womb, it's in darkness. And so being birthed into the light, it's shocking to have all of that light. And if you are my age, or perhaps older, you maybe remember that once upon a time, we did not have light and stimulus 24 hours a day. We didn't have internet. I mean, even the TV went off at 10 o'clock. Do you remember that? Some of you might think this is crazy, ancient history. But the Star Spangled Banner would play, there was an image of the American flag, and then you'd get so the TV was off. You did not have the opportunity to binge something and stay up all night with all of this external stimulus. So if you were going to stay up, it meant maybe journaling, maybe quietly reflecting, maybe meditating, maybe drifting into a really deep, wonderful sleep. But in our culture, maybe not so in other cultures, in our culture, we look at the dark as evil. I mean, think about Star Wars. The dark side is the bad guys, and the light is the good guys. And it's, I even looked up what is the power of dark, looking for, what is the good power in the dark? And all I could find were things like the dark is evil, it's an affront to God, it's separation from spirit. Nothing good about it, just bad. So in my mind, anything that exists has a purpose. And if dark is bad, if night is bad, why do we even have it? Why don't we just have sun 24 hours a day? And in thinking about what is good about the dark, there are so many beautiful benefits to night. So physically, when during the day, the sun is out, we run around, we do all these things, we socialize, we work, we play, we engage in different activities, we cook, we eat. We're just always out here doing things. And then the light from the sun provides an external stimulus, and that's what our day is about. It's like all of this stimulus that comes from the outside. Well, at night, we do have light, the light of the moon, but that moonlight is a reflective light. It's not from its own, it's not an external light, it's a reflection. And that's what the power of the night is. It's for us to reflect on all of these things we've done during the day, all of the activities that we do, all of the things that happen. All of those things are activities, and in them, there's an opportunity for growth and learning. And that's what the night is about. It's for us to reflect on, what was my day about today? What did I learn? How did I grow? How did I develop? What do I regret? What would I change? How would I do something differently when this situation comes up again? And so those are some of the mental and emotional benefits of the dark. It gives us an opportunity to be calm, to be reflective, to create maybe. When Mitzi was talking about walking and getting this kind of inspired idea, those kinds of inspirations and intuitions come more easily when it's dark and we don't have all of this external chatter and people talking to us and thinking about, you know, how am I going to look and what people are going to think of me. Even physically, the dark is good for our biological health. It produces melatonin, which you probably have heard about. And some people take melatonin supplements because it helps you to sleep and regenerate. But if you sleep in the dark, you don't usually need to take external melatonin. That's what produces the melatonin, is being in dark. But it's even hard to find a dark room. I mean, most rooms, at least many rooms, the electrical outlets have these little night lights. And if you've ever been in a hotel room, I've talked about this before, there's light everywhere. There's smoke detectors with a little light. There's a light on the microwave. There's a, you know, the on-off switches have little night lights. And I used to travel a lot, and I would take a roll of duct tape with me, and I'd try to cover up all of those lights. But, you know, trying to cover up the one on the ceiling, I couldn't do, and so I finally learned you can get a sleep mask. And a sleep mask, it's not always that comfortable, but at least it makes it dark so that you can sleep. Benefits of the dark, it helps improve immune function, it regulates your hormones, and when we are able to appreciate the dark and go into deep sleep, excuse me, it helps us to regenerate mentally, emotionally, and physically. So, as I said, it used to be that you couldn't be stimulated 24 hours a day. I mean, you could probably look for it, but even stores used to close, some of them at 6 o'clock. There was no such thing as a 24-hour store. And there was no 24-hour things that could stimulate you all the time. So now we have to choose if we want to reflect, and if we want to be quiet, and if we want to embrace the darkness. So I think that that's really the power of the solstice, is to appreciate and respect the fact that we need dark and we need reflection in order to learn. And if we don't do that, then we tend to repeat the same things over and over again. That's what karma is. That when there's something that we need to learn, if we don't reflect and say, okay, what was my part in this? What do I need to understand here? We're going to either choose or draw into our life somebody who provides a similar stimulus, a similar conflict, so that we can learn the lesson. And I hesitated about sharing this story because I'm kind of a private person, but this man asked me out for coffee for a date, and we had a really good conversation. I mean, it wasn't just like, where are you from? Do you have kids? Because I'm not from St. Louis, conversation kind of dead ends sometimes if that's all people ask about, because nobody knows where Mount Vernon High School was in New York, where I grew up. Yeah. So anyway, we had an interesting conversation. We talked about the music that we like. We're in St. Louis. We like to go for live music, where we like to dance, the kinds of foods we like to eat. We both like to cook, and so we shared some recipes with each other. We talked about our favorite yoga places. So, you know, pretty interesting things for a short coffee date. And then we talked about our relationship history. So I have a friend who dates sometimes, and she says, why would you talk about that on the first meeting? It's like, well, it tells you a lot about somebody to talk about it on a first meeting. So he just broke up 6 months ago with someone who he was dating for 10 years, on and off. He said he broke up with her 4 or 5 times. And when I asked him, and he kept talking about her and what the things were about her, which were the reason why he kept breaking up with her. And I said, well, why did you keep coming back to her? And so then he talked about her, all of the things about her that he liked, and that's why he kept coming back to her. You know, nothing about him, like, you know, this is my part in it. And so I told him my relationship history. I was married late, I was widowed young, I was single for a long time, thinking I would meet someone organically, whatever that means. And then when a friend finally pushed me into online dating, I met someone and we dated for 4 years, and that ended 7 years ago, and I've been dating on and off ever since. So he said, oh, so you don't want to be in a relationship? And I thought, that's kind of odd. I said, well, I do. That's why I said yes to having coffee with you. And so we parted, and it was a little confusing, and instead of feeling like a teenager wondering, oh my God, is he going to call me again? I sent him a text and I said, you know, I enjoyed talking with you. It sounds like we have some common interests, but I couldn't really tell if you're interested. I'd be interested in getting to know you better, but you kept saying you were dating because your friends told you you needed to put yourself out there. And so I didn't know if you're really interested or if you're still grieving this previous relationship. So he sent me a text that said, you seem like a very nice lady and someone I would like to get to know better as well, but you're right. I don't think I'm ready to start dating and certainly not ready for a relationship. So when I read that, I thought, well, why did you ask me out for coffee? And I realized that he had not reflected on this previous relationship, what his learning was, why he kept going back and forth, and that's why he projected onto me that I wasn't ready for a relationship, because he didn't know that he wasn't ready for a relationship. And so it took me being, I guess, like a mirror to be able to help him to realize it, which is okay. I don't mind, you know, being a mirror if I can help someone in that way. And so I think that that's important to realize, that because learning is why we're here and growth is why we're here, when we go through our day and don't just leapfrog into the next day, you know, or keep ourselves awake all night being distracted by some movie or show that we're binging, when we really allow ourselves that time to rest and to reflect and to consider, you know, it doesn't mean we always have the answers, but we at least have some ideas of what is it that keeps going on, and maybe ask an open-ended question of ourselves, what's my learning in this? What is this situation here to teach me? That's one of the reasons why I love nighttime dreams so much. Before I go to bed, I usually do journal. Sometimes I meditate, but I like doing that earlier in the day so that I don't fall asleep. And I will ask my dreams oftentimes, what do I need to learn? Or what is this situation teaching me? And especially if it's something that I don't feel resolved with, I hope that my dreams will give me some insight. So I was actually reflecting on this message, and I don't remember the specific question, but I asked my dream something like, what do I need to impart? What do people need to know? And I had this very long, involved dream And in it, there was a scene where there was a woman who was kind of like an elder. She was very wise, and she was bathed in this kind of robe of light that was kind of like pearly blue, white, sort of like the way an abalone shell, the inside is iridescent. And she was asking me some questions to get to know me, and she said, what kind of trauma comes to mind? And the answer to that is a subject for a whole other message that I probably will deliver sometime. But as I was waking up and thinking about that question, and in the dream it felt very kind of centering to ask that question and contemplate it, I thought, why would that be an important thing to know, is what trauma comes to mind? And it's not because our trauma makes us who we are. It's that everybody experiences things that are traumatic or painful, and it's in how we learn from those things, how we respond to them, how resilient we are. Our response to those things is what makes us who we are. It's how we grow, it's how we learn, it's how we develop. And I think that part of the reason why people may be afraid to reflect is most of us don't like pain. And they maybe don't think that by reflecting on something painful or traumatic, it doesn't mean you stay stuck in the pain. It means that you heal it and you moved beyond it. And you're able for that situation that you interpreted as painful or difficult to become something that maybe is your biggest source of growth. And that's why in the Buddhist tradition, the lotus is considered such a powerful spiritual symbol because it grows out of the mud. And so sometimes it's the things in us that grow out of the mud or the muck or the difficulty that produce the most growth. So what I would encourage you to do on this longest night of the year is to allow yourself to experience the dark. You know, maybe even turn off the lights and light some candles. If you have a journal, journal about your learning. You know, maybe journal about your lessons from this year because we're close to the end of the year. And then allow yourself to receive whatever insights you get. And I want to leave you with a prayer that I think kind of honors this wise woman in my dream. I clothe myself in a robe of light composed of the love, power, and wisdom of God, not only for my own protection, but so that all who see it or come in contact with it will be drawn to God and be healed. And so happy solstice to all of you.